You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Tone Mob Podcast. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I can't tell you, I know, I say this all the time, and I know you probably think I'm just like saying it to say it, but no, I genuinely mean it. The fact that you spend your time with me means the world to me. I cannot tell you, like, it's insane to me that this is what I get to do. And I thank you so much for enabling me to do that. Like, it's the only reason I get to do this is because you're listening to this right now. So thank you so much. You, whoever you are, whoever is hearing this with their ears right now, thank you so much. This episode is really, really cool. I'm talking to Pete and Dede Dankelson, and I don't want to spoil their story if you've heard it before. This was a little bit of an off-the-cuff thing. We basically recorded this the day we met, and these people are so cool. They are so cool. So let me not spoil this. Let's just get right into this episode and let them tell the story. And perhaps we'll elaborate more in the future and get them back on for more discussion and more nerding out. So let's get into this one with Pete and Dede Dankelson. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and today we are doing something very different. We are recording in Sweetwater Studios at GearFest, and I'm here with Pete and Dede Dankelson from Pete's Diary. What's going on, you two?
Hey, doing good.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, this is fun. Yeah, we met just a little bit ago, ate some pizza together, which the audience won't be surprised to find out. And now we're here chilling in an ISO booth, and we're just going to be nerds for a little bit and talk about whatever. But
All right.
maybe a good place to start, especially because it's usually Pete by himself on these type of things. Like, I usually like to dig deep into people's backstory, but I know we have sort of limited time here. But what's the bird's eye view? You know, like how come you're here? Like, what's the deal? What's you guys' story?
Oh, man. It's kind of a long one.
So Pete's Diary started it started as a journal I kept when he was born. He was in the hospital for 4 months. So fast forward for the bird's eye view.
Yeah.
37 surgeries later. And now he's 21 years old. So he was born with something called golden heart syndrome. And 37 surgeries later, Pete's Diary came back first when you were in junior high. We did motivational speaking and anti-bullying, about living with a facial difference and acceptance and inclusion. And then he picked up a guitar when he was 15. So now here we are at Sweetwater. In this beautiful studio and store, and you're doing all this gear talk stuff.
Yeah.
So Pete's Diary has kind of transformed from this motivational speaking business, which all shut down in 2020 with the pandemic.
Right.
And we had started to integrate the music into it because you just, haven't put the guitar down since he picked it up 6 years ago. And really, our social channels have now become known for the music.
Right.
And he put his album out last year. We published his book. We published a book with his story, his autobiography, that has more of the medical and backstory. But really, Pete's Diary now exists as kind of the publisher and distribution and sort of the record label for Peter Dankelson now. So we keep evolving.
It's a bunch of different things.
That's super cool. So you've only been playing 6 years? Is that That's
Yep.
accurate? Oh,
Yeah.
I feel horrible.
No. No.
Dude, that's incredible though.
Thank you.
Let alone, all of the things you had to overcome. You are legitimately a fantastic guitar player. It's not just especially for how long you've been playing, but just, I would have never guessed that. I would have thought you've been playing longer than that. That is super cool. But what was your first aha moment with guitar? What made you like, this is something that really speaks to me? Because I can tell you're super passionate about it.
Yeah, well, it's funny kind of looking back at it. I can kind of think of some, seeds that were planted. Or like just kind of moments where I'm like, maybe that did kind of have an impact overall. But I do remember, I tell a story all the time, but I love it because it's a good one. I remember, I forget how old I was. I think either late elementary or early middle school. I was in the car with Dad, and we were driving home from somewhere, and song comes on in the car, and he turns it up, and he's like, "Oh, hey, this is what I listened to," when I was kind of your age, maybe a bit older at the time, and it was "Eruption" by Van Halen.
Ah, yeah.
So everybody seems to have an Eruption story, and I mean, to me, when I heard that, I mean, I hadn't really listened to, a lot of guitar heavy stuff. It was just kind of whatever was on the radio at that time with the pop stuff, middle school and all that. But when Eruption came on, I just kind of remember still, for someone that didn't know much, anything about guitar or rock and roll at the time, Eruption still had a big impact on me. And it was just kind of like, I don't know what's going on here, but that's impressive.
Yeah.
Like, that's really cool. And to me, kind of looking back at that now, it kind of really highlights to me how timeless and influential that solo or that piece really is. That someone like me, who at that time didn't know anything about the guitar, was, moved by it and kind of, it caught my attention. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a big one.
Did you think to yourself, like, I want to do that? Or was it just like, I need to pick up a guitar and see what happens?
At that time, no. It was just really something that I just thought was cool.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, because I do remember when we got back later that night, I looked it up online and listened to it again.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much it at that time. There was kind of some more things that happened later. But, looking back at it, I can kind of think maybe that was kind of a big moment where, like I said, seeds were planted. Like, it kind of caught my attention at that time.
What came next then?
Let's see. That's kind of a big one. Well, kind of a big thing was, let's see. My brother plays hockey, and in the car, when you go to his games and stuff, there'd always be music on. And, typically for, a hockey game and stuff, you want to get fired up and pumped up, ready
Absolutely.
to go.
Yeah.
So Jake was always, he had kind of some tunes going on and stuff. Like, I remember, like Thunderstruck, kind of stuff like that. Yeah.
Thunderstruck.
Thunderstruck was a big one. Stuff like that. It would get you fired up and ready to go for him and his game. So I remember, that was kind of a big one too.
Is an AC/DC the reason that's when
ultimately,
you said, I want to do that?
Ultimately, yeah. The thing that kind of boiled it over for me was in my freshman year of high school. I kind of really started to listen to more rock and roll and kind of dove into ZZ Top and kind of a lot of those bluesy, hard rock artists. And yeah, ultimately hearing what Angus and Malcolm were doing with AC/DC, I was like, okay, that's really cool. I think I'm going to give this a try.
Yeah. ZZ Top was a big one for me too. That was one of the first rock bands that I really got into because my parents primarily listened to country.
Yeah.
Which I love that stuff too. Well, yeah. But ZZ Top was one of the few like rock albums they had. And I was like, let's put on Eliminator. And I was like, what's this? Well, this is something different,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned country too, because I do remember, in the car, I know, yeah, Mom, you listen to a lot of country and stuff. So, I mean, I remember was it like one that still I dig is Chattanooga.
Oh, yeah.
Alan Jackson.
Totally.
That's got a fun guitar riff in it. And I mean,
that's Brent Mason.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a good, I don't really know anything about playing country and all that, but I love the sound and the style. Brad Paisley. I mean, it was in the car the other day, Water. That guitar solo. It was just like this. There's this really, I call it like, that phrase in the song. It's kind of like towards the end. I think it's after like a fiddle thing. And there was just the lick he did. And it just makes me laugh because I'm like, how do you do that? It's just one of those things. It's just, it's just so impressive. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
wow.
totally.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's cool that, I mean, like my playlist has everything from Sabbath to Brad Paisley, Keith Urban to, I don't know, some of the pop stuff a little bit. But, when I have you as a captive audience, I like to throw all that stuff on.
Well, it's fun to hear some of those songs that maybe aren't on, my playlist,
Right. I mean,
most of
that's
the
what's
time
cool
either.
because
So
you
it's
hear
fun to hear
somebody
stuff.
that you wouldn't typically listen to on your own. And I just think for someone like you that's trying to write music, just expose yourself to different things is
100%.
pretty important.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Quick side note for the listeners. I have no idea if you can hear this or not, but we're in the ISO booth, as I said, which means the control room is still in use. And there are people in there getting a demo of the Dolby Atmos system. And so there's some bass thumping through, which is probably ridiculously intense in there, but it's just barely coming through in here. And I'm not sure if the mics are picking it up. I'm just saying, if you're wondering what that sound is, dear audience, that's
it's our background music.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice anything.
Yeah,
I just started hearing it.
I'm always, just because I am pretty particular about the sound of the podcast, I'm always trying to minimize that stuff to the best of my ability. And so I'm always picky, but they know I miss stuff too. So whatever. I'm not going to stop mid conversation and be like, well, unless it was just overbearing, but I don't even know if it's picking that up. So, but so when you talk about exposing yourself to like different types of music, is that just because you want to have more knowledge in general, or are you actually looking for inspiration to write new things?
Well, the main thing I like writing, and I mean, I'm still really trying to figure out, I have a bit of writing experience, like 6 songs so far. But I kind of know the sound that I want to go for, kind of like, that kind of bluesy hard rock, kind of that 70s sound with like AC/DC. I love what like Slash does as well, like with the Conspirators and all that, like that kind of sound. I really love what they're doing. I know like newer rock bands too, like Dirty Honey.
They're great.
They're fantastic. I really dig like that kind of sound. I'm like, I love that. Just that vibe. And for me, at least, it pumps me up and gets me really excited. Just a feeling. So I'm like, that's what I want to write and do. That's just a lot of fun. Makes you feel good.
Yeah. Do you like to do primarily like instrumental based stuff, or do you want to do more with like singers and a full band, or what do you think?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely a full band.
Yeah. That's super cool. So you prospecting right now? Should I audition? Should I start doing my best Angus
you got
right
your
now?
power trio.
We got a power trio. We got a power trio.
Peter
going.
Dankelson band.
Nice.
And it's been a lot of fun. Basically, we last summer we oh man, that's kind of a long story too with the band. But basically, we all kind of met each other through the School of Rock program.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there was one that was close by, to where we live, and basically, Ryan, at the time, he was the drum instructor there, so I kind of knew him from that. And Mac, who plays bass and does lead vocals, he does, he was there too. So we all kind of knew each other through that. And then me and Ryan really kind of started jamming, guitars and drums and stuff.
During lockdown.
Yeah, that's basically when that hit. It was just kind of like, a few months in, once things, I wouldn't say settled down, but once we kind of got a bit used to the situation at the time, it was just kind of like I had all these ideas in, voice memos. Yeah.
I love the voice memos for that. That's like one of the best and like unsung tools that we have is the voice memo apps. Like, and like, because I'll forget it. Like, I'm not going to remember.
100%. That it's like you have that riff that just kind of pops in at the middle of the night.
Yes.
And then you like hum it in, and then you listen to it the next morning. You're like, oh man, I got it for that. Like, or hey, maybe it's the opposite. But like, I'm like, oh man, I really got out of bed for that.
Yeah.
But basically, me and Ryan, once things kind of, once we got used to the situation and the lockdown, we were jamming, and then really like through the whole winter of 2021, he would come over and we'd do like demos. Basically, he brought an Octapad over. And it was just kind of like we'd do demos on like his, to record on his laptop and stuff. And we'd try all these different things. And it's like, well, and then the whole time we're going, well, who's going to sing and, bass and all this. And then I asked my buddy Mac, and, he came over, we jammed, and everything was great. And then, we had the power trio going. And then the whole summer we spent, writing tunes. And then in the fall, we went to a studio for the first time and recorded 5 originals. And that was fantastic, being in a studio for the first time and kind of, understanding that experience and going through it. And then we finally just released that EP in the, about a month ago.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. It's all screwed up.
All
Nice.
screwed up. Yeah, with your X-ray on it.
Right, yeah.
As a mom, seeing you in the studio for the day, because you recorded all the guitar parts in the studio for the day,
Mhm.
it was truly a special experience to see you doing that, because it's like, this is what he was meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
that was fun.
it's cool. It was really neat to kind of sit through and watch you do that.
What studio were you at?
It's a place called Wire and Vice up in was it
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
Wauwatosa.
Wauwatosa, yeah.
In a what? In
That's
a
a
who?
fun word to say, isn't it? Wauwatosa. Basically Milwaukee. Yeah.
Got it. So I very much consider myself like I like being in a studio. I like recording in the studio, writing in the studio. I love the experimentation and the crazy things that can happen in the studio.
Right.
And I'm just much more comfortable in that environment. I'm not a live player. Like, I don't really want to play live. Do you find yourself preferring one or the other, or do you kind of love the whole thing?
Well, I mean, I've only had 3 days of studio experience, and it was fun. It was
4.
fun.
I let you pay for 4 days.
Oh, that's right. I didn't really, yeah. But the studio was fun. But to me, the ultimate goal was, record those songs and enjoy doing it and all that. But the ultimate goal is to play live, because I love that, just that energy and excitement.
Yeah.
So studio is fun. But kind of tedious too.
Yes.
It's like you really got to be at the top of your game.
Yeah. It can be
or,
very tedious.
put your best foot forward.
Yeah. For me, I get up in front of people and I'm like, what is guitar? I don't know. But in the studio, I'm totally comfortable.
Honestly, the funny thing with me that I've noticed, and I'm finally starting to figure it out, but sometimes there's so much adrenaline. You almost start to, shake when you're playing. You're not nervous. It's or maybe you are, but it's a combination of
Good nerves.
It's a combination of nerves, excitement, and it's just okay, I'm still trying to. I think I'm starting to figure out how to, channel it down and really kind of put my best foot forward when I'm playing live.
Use that feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Try and channel it instead of get caught up in it.
Well, I think it's
That's
funny
something interesting.
because you grew up speaking in front of crowds.
Right.
And, public speaking is something that most people have a huge fear of.
Mhm.
And he grew up doing that. But then, and so I think when you started playing and you first started performing, it wasn't a big deal. Some of the other kids would be very nervous about it. But for you, it wasn't. You loved it. Because we'd go speak at schools and you'd be like, there's only 200 here. How come there's not more kids? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, and so he loved it. But then once pandemic hit and you're you haven't, didn't do any in-person speaking for 2 years, it's almost like restarting a little bit. I don't know if you've had, we haven't done too much speaking.
No.
We're starting to get events booked again, but do you feel nervous again now?
Not
Speaking
really.
or-
We just haven't done it in so long. It's kind of hard to,
You've still been
say.
performing.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure. That's kind of a tricky one.
That's what's weird about me is public speaking's fine. I could talk in public all day,
Okay.
but all of a sudden I don't know how to play guitar anymore. I'm sure it's probably
that's funny. I would think it would be the opposite almost.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's just and I might be exaggerating a little bit. I could probably fumble my way through "It Smells Like Teen Spirit," but it's a different kind of feeling for me. But yeah, speaking in public's always been fine for me. Always, I was always the kid sweet. We get to give a speech in class. Cool. I'm gonna go up and tell everybody what I think, which I guess lends itself to this a little bit, even though it's
There you go. Yeah.
it's less public. It's in a way it's more public because I just don't see their faces.
Editing is always a good. You have that ability to edit.
I do. I don't do it a lot.
That's cool.
I let it kind of just roll, and there's some from time to time, or somebody's like, "Oh, I wasn't supposed to leak that album date or whatever, or pedal date or whatever."
Right.
But I kind of just let it go as it is, and I think people enjoy
that more. They don't want something that's over polished and
it's just I try to make stuff that I like to listen to or engage with, and that's sometimes to my detriment. Because sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do that, but then it's like, no, but thousands of people would enjoy it if you did,
right?
Yeah. But it's a.
Gee, what does that sound like, Peter? Something that someone's been telling you?
About
doing some videos.
Videos are the things exactly what I'm talking about right now.
People want to hear from you what you think, what your knowledge.
Mm-hmm. I know.
He's like, no, I just want to play the guitar.
I get it. it. Do you have any controversial guitar opinions?
Ooh.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know. I just like watching it all. That really is a good question. I don't know.
So I think like what's interesting about you that I think would be cool if you would do some videos like this. You did this early on in the pandemic when all our speaking shut down. He did I'm like, okay, pick a band or a song or an album or something every week and just kind of talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
Because he likes to study the artists and how they perform and the stories behind the songs. And he likes to learn all that stuff. So he's got he's a walking trivia of 70s, 80s, classic rock, blues rock. But recently you did a cover of Blackbird that we posted on social media, an acoustic version of Blackbird. And how you said, I woke up with that song in my head because why?
Well, okay. So I saw that Guns N' Roses, they're, touring Europe right now. And I saw that it looks like there's a small acoustic portion of the show. It's Slash, Duff, and Fortis are all sitting at the, on stage with the acoustics, and they're playing Blackbird before they go into another tune. And I saw that, and it just kind of got stuck in my head. And I'm like, oh man, that's a really great tune. Have I learned it? It's no. Oh, I should do that. And then it just kind of got stuck in my head, really. So it was kind of that, literally woke up the next morning. It was okay, let's do it. And so I just kind of went and, just spent the whole morning learning that song. Whole morning. Really, it was a couple, days. Because, acoustic finger style is a bit out of my comfort zone. But that was fun to do. It's a really beautiful song.
And then you learned more about the history of the song.
Right. Well, you just kind of fall down. You fall down the YouTube rabbit hole, right? So you just kind of look up, I looked up a lesson for it and all that to try and figure it out. And then, you get suggested posts with it for, Blackbird as well. And so I saw a video of Paul talking about coming up with a song and kind of how he wrote it and all that. I'm like, that's really cool. So just, learning about the song too is as much fun as, playing it. It's
Definitely. That's a special one for me too. My oldest used to sing it when he was very young. His mom showed it to him, and he would sing it when he was 2.
Aww.
And we went to Third Man Records in Nashville.
Yeah.
And they have that old lathe cut vinyl booth.
Oh,
thing.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know if it's still in operation, but it was at the time, and he sang Blackbird in which was awesome to have, and we had it, and I loved it, but our house got some smoke damage, and it's somewhere in the shuffle that record got lost. So
that's a bummer.
But I still remember it, so it's still a good memory.
Yeah.
But what is? I don't actually know the history of the song. What is it?
Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to remember now. It sounded like Paul and I think George.
Yeah,
I think it was George.
Yeah.
They would sit, with acoustics together, and they would almost challenge each other, it sounds like, to come up with different pieces. And Paul was kind of playing a piece it was a classical piece by Bach. And then he was kind of messing around with it. And then he's like, well, that's how the intro to Blackbird came up. And it was just kind of, the first 3 chords to that. And then he slides, up to it. And so the first 3 notes, it sounds like were kind of inspired by that Bach piece. And then the rest of it just took off from there. Yeah.
Nice. This is a little bit old news now, but did you watch that Beatles documentary that came out? Oh,
that
man.
Was amazing.
That
was so cool.
I still can't get over how much I loved it.
Yeah.
And what I loved it, I think maybe some people would, I could see how normal people, I guess for lack of a better term, would get bored with it because it's pretty repetitive.
Right, yeah.
But as a musician, especially one that loves studio stuff, I was just like,
oh, yeah.
I was like, this is not that different than my experiences. I mean, obviously they have they're in a big fancier studio than I've ever
Right.
recorded in. Well, up until
Right.
now, this is a pretty fancy studio. But but like the way they're like working things out and talking to each other and interacting with each other, I
Right.
was like, this is all very familiar. Like I've seen this and been a part of this many times, and it was like, wow, they're humans. Like it's
Right.
crazy.
You know what the most familiar part or thing that really hit home to me was?
What's that?
The arguing.
Yeah.
Being in a band. I'm like, oh man, I've heard this before. Especially with songwriting. It's somebody, it's like, oh, you like the same old stuff. Or, oh, you always write the same old stuff. Well, I love the same old stuff.
Right.
Yeah. That just cracked
I
me
mean,
up.
I wonder how much arguing got cut out of that though, in a way, because
Who knows?
Yeah.
because that was later in their careers, right? I
Right.
mean, that was toward the
it was,
end.
yeah, it was kind of towards the end.
Yeah, it was right before their last concert.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Was
That's right, yeah.
was the rooftop performance their last show?
I
think
believe
it
so.
was.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until that popped up. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's kind of wild. And it's just wild too, watching it and thinking that's them. Like, it's not actors or anything. It's like,
Right.
this is like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, they're doing a take of, Let It Be. And it's like, oh, that's like, this is what's actually happening in the room
Mm-hmm.
in that moment. To me, that was just kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
wow. Like, you always hear stories and you kind of have stuff that might play out in your head. But, to actually watch something like that happen and be like, that's actually what happened is
Them
really,
working,
really cool.
like that. It just, it made me think of what a loss John Lennon was.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you knew it was a big loss, but you're just thinking, man, that
Mhm.
talent.
Yeah, and somehow, like just by coincidence, it was either right after or right before I watched that, I listened to a podcast where they went over Mark David Chapman and how like I'm like, wow, that guy was all over the place. And it was
Mhm.
like really sad to hear, like also like just to hear somebody fall through the cracks like that, and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and like that was the end result. And like this one guy that had serious issues like impacted the whole world.
Right.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just it's wild to think that like, butterfly effect, it's kind of a
Right.
it's a real thing.
Yep.
So this is sidetracking into somewhat happier things. So what you mentioned Dirty Honey. So are there any other modern artists that really speak to you?
Let's see. You got like Tyler Bryan and the Shakedown.
Oh yeah.
Love Jared James Nichols.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You played with him.
Yeah.
I've heard rumors.
The rumors are true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
well,
keep missing him.
I know it's so funny. We
but you
keep.
did-
Yeah.
You did get a picture with his cardboard cutout today.
Yeah. They had the Marshall wall set up, but there was a cutout of Jared. Yeah, I'm gonna send him that photo. I took a selfie. Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. I know we're leaving like the day before he gets here. Which
Oh,
is a
man.
bummer.
But yeah. We keep
But no, I saw him again recently when he was opening up for Black Label Society
Mm-hmm.
about a month. Yeah, about a little over a month ago. And it was good to see him. It was good to hear him again.
Yeah,
It was
definitely.
really fun.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, getting back to shows has been like I knew I missed it. I didn't
Oh,
realize
yeah.
how
Oh,
much
yeah.
I missed
Yeah.
it.
Right?
I thought I
Yeah,
did.
Like the energy and just, there's nothing like live music.
Mhm.
You can't replace it with live streams.
No,
Just
Yeah.
no, and I still watched a lot of live streams. I
Oh, yeah.
wanted to,
Yeah, we wanted to support.
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
Yeah.
and it's just like, but it's like, man, something's missing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still cool.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
definitely the next best thing, but it's
Yes.
it's,
Yeah.
it's I don't even think it's 70%. I think it's maybe 50.
Well, it's funny. The thing that I really took away from those live streams a lot is sometimes, I'd watch, and especially if it was like an improvised solo or something in the heat of the moment, there's always something that'll kind of catch my ear. And I'll try and break it down and, maybe borrow the lick or something.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Borrow, yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
borrow, yeah.
I'll give it back when I'm done.
Exactly, yeah. But that's one of the things I love most about live stream shows. I'll be watching and, especially if there's like a big improv guitar solo, I'm like, all right, let's see what happens.
Mhm.
And yeah, typically something will go by and I'll be like, what's that? And I'll rewind it and,
Mhm.
try
That's
and
why we had
figure it
everybody
out.
had to go out and buy smart TVs because we couldn't get the technology to work in our living room. Oh my God, it's so frustrating. Go try to get it on upstairs or downstairs or
Oh, yeah.
to get
Yeah.
the sound right.
Yeah, and all the platforms are a little bit different. Some of them work really well. Some of them you got to
Mhm.
stream it to your phone and then beam it to
Oh,
your TV.
yep,
And it's
yeah.
like, but what? I don't.
Yeah.
Why can't I just? these are first world problems, so I think we're doing okay.
Yeah, right,
Yes,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I know.
I catch myself in that a lot. I'm like, what am I complaining about right now?
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's pretty
We're
wild.
pretty blessed.
Oh, absolutely.
Overall, yeah.
I mean, even just to, like what we're doing today, this is crazy.
I know this is awesome.
This is so cool. I mean, Peter just played through a stack or a wall of Marshall amps here at Sweetwater in the pavilion,
Right.
the
Yeah.
concert pavilion they have set up.
Oh, that was great. That was my first time playing through a stack. Like, well, okay, not like a stack, but like a wall, basically.
I think that's
a
most
wall of
people's
Marshall.
first time. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's a real common thing. But.
Yeah. But I mean, that was great. You felt everything shake.
Yeah. Unless your name's Yingwei, then I think, he's the only one that routinely plays through walls of Marshall. So I'm pretty
honestly,
sure.
I think AC/DC too. I've seen
that's true.
videos of the live rig, and I'm like, all of those Marshalls are on.
Mm-hmm.
Peter just is praying that they go back on tour. He started playing guitar at the end of their last touring. So he's not seen them live.
I mean, it's been a rough time to be an AC/DC fan. Like when I picked up the guitar, that was when Brian had to step out with the hearing issues, and Axel filled in. And so they didn't come to Chicago, and they came back on that last U.S. run. So I was just kind of watching on,
like,
social media as they were coming through. I'm like, no, come on. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'll catch him next time. And, 5 years go by. And
yeah.
And then, I mean, that was kind of rough because nothing. I mean, none of them are on social media. So it's like you had no idea what was going on. And then, Malcolm passed away. And it's like, are they going to come back? And then, 2020 with the pandemic and all that. And it's just kind of like, oh, man. And then the new album came out, and I was like, oh, my gosh, this is amazing. So actually that whole period was really bizarre because basically early October is my birthday.
Okay.
And the first single from the album was Shot in the Dark, and that came out on my birthday. But that, unfortunately, was kind of an emotional roller coaster because the day before that was when we lost Eddie Van Halen. So that was just that whole period. It was just kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm looking forward to my heroes coming back. Nothing could possibly ruin this moment. And then that morning, I was like, oh, that hurt everyone.
Oh man, yeah. It's weird how these things happen. So I'm a big fan of a band called the Gaslight Anthem, and they just announced that they were getting back together. And I'm through doing this, I weirdly become buddies with Brian, the front man of that band, and Alex. They have multiple Alexes. The guitar playing Alex, but I saw him announce that, and I knew they'd been teasing stuff, and I'd been messaging Brian, and I'm just like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Nothing. What do you mean? I don't know." And they announced that they're getting back together. I'm like, "Yes!" Like you said, nothing can ruin this day now. And then Taylor Hawkins died, and I was just like, "Oh, how can?"
Yeah.
Okay, I guess something can ruin this day.
Yeah.
Like, highs and low lows. That hit like way harder than I had imagined.
Yeah, that hit hard for me.
Eddie Van Halen too. Ugh.
Yeah, that one hurt.
Yeah. But yeah, I got a podcast episode for you though. Since you are a Van Halen fan, I was going to I was going to tell you this earlier. I interviewed Brad Talinsky and Chris Gill, who wrote a whole book about their interviews they did with Eddie.
Oh,
over the
nice.
years. And it was a really good episode. Like, I think you'll, as an Eddie fan, you'll really appreciate that episode. It's back in the feed a little ways, but
I'll check it out.
We'll check it out.
Yeah.
We got a car ride, dude.
I'm
always looking for podcasts we can both listen to.
Yeah, that was a really good episode. And those two dudes we're incredibly passionate about not just Eddie as a player, but also as a person, and also the things that he contributed to the music community that weren't music specifically. Is like the things he thought of gear wise that hadn't been done. His
Yeah. He was an inventor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he had such an impact, and then just like musicians you wouldn't even think that were like, oh yeah, Eddie Van Halen, it totally inspired me to do what I do. I'm like, you're a rapper. Like,
Well, when he passed away, and you were devastated, of course, and everything. And I'm like, well, you don't even really play Van Halen songs much. You're like, but there's all this stuff. I grew up with Van Halen, in my generation, and know the music and everything, but don't appreciate it as a musician, just as a a fan or whatever. But you were talking more about his performance, how he performed, and how that influenced
Right. I
you.
mean, every time he was playing, he just had the biggest smile on his face.
Oh,
You knew
yeah.
he was having the time of his life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, just that. I mean, he put 110% into everything he did. It was just like you could tell, like, when he, when he did something, it was just pure joy, pure excitement. So that all attitude, basically, that's one of the things that I love most about Eddie, and really took away from him. Not so much because I don't really play, in the style that he's known for, invented.
Yeah.
Does anyone?
Yeah. Not quite the same type of playing, but just that energy and excitement. I mean, his rhythm chops too. I've really loved. Like, I'm the One, just the swing of that riff. I'm always blown away by that one. That one's always a big favorite.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because everybody took that away from him. Like everybody who plays is just like, look at the glee on that guy's face.
Yeah.
Like as he's doing the thing he's doing. I mean, I don't listen to that much Van Halen on a regular basis, really, and I definitely didn't grow up with it. But I was a complete mess, And I'm like, I was actually telling my wife, I'm like, I'm surprised I'm this upset about this.
Yeah.
Because like it's not like I listen to Eddie Van Halen all day every day.
Yeah.
This is a rough one.
Yeah.
And I got to thinking, like, the things I am really into, I'm really into like punk and hardcore and metal and all this other stuff. And I got to thinking about it. I'm like, half those guys play 5150s.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Yeah.
that like some of my favorite songs and sounds literally wouldn't exist without his gear company and also his inspiration on playing. But like, yeah, his company like helped create the sound of some of my favorite bands. Like, it's wild.
Like, we just saw Journey a couple months ago, and I saw for Neil's rig. You could see an EVH. I don't remember what specific amp it was, but you could tell it was an EVH. That was, that was the main amp.
Definitely.
So yeah, lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff.
You just tried out some pretty cool Marshall amps.
I did. That was fun. Yeah.
Getting to play with lots of fun stuff here at Sweetwater.
Did one stand out to you?
I loved the it was like the Marshall has those studio series.
Yeah.
They had the stack version of the like a plexi, basically, and I loved the sound of that. It's just kind of that sound of like, oh, that's the sound.
Yeah.
I can tell you like tried that one, and what was the other one?
The other one was the Silver Jubilee.
Oh, well,
You like
yeah,
that one,
that was a great one too. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with either.
But then you went back to the plexi.
Yeah, and then
your face, I was like, okay, that's the one.
And of course, that's got to be the loudest one too.
Oh, sure, of course it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Loud is more good. It's totally fine.
Our neighbors love us.
Yeah, I actually had to build my own like isolated shred shed because one time I plugged it. I would do the thing. When I'd get off work and I'd go into the house, and sometimes I'd be like, no one's here.
Yep. Oh, yep.
And so 211, everything goes. I did that one time, and then I didn't leave the room. I just got done, turned my amp off, and went back to whatever I was doing on my computer. And my wife came home, and she was like, "What did you do?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "What were you doing in here?" I was like, "Playing guitar." And she's like, "Come out here." And all of the pictures were crooked.
Oh my God.
She's like, "You apparently were a little bit loud." I was like, "Oh yeah, I went all the way." And so yeah, that's when it was like, I think I need to build a studio. So yeah, I can fortunately do that now at 11 at night, and nobody yells at me.
Wow, that's intense. Then that's pretty.
It's not quite this intense, but it is as intense as I could afford to make it.
Yeah. These sound rooms here at Sweetwater, I mean, incredible. We did a tour several years ago where they took us in one of the recording.
It was the one right over here, that main one.
The Studio A?
Studio A, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And like they said, a helicopter could fly over and you wouldn't hear it. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a lot of mass. That's part of what makes it so expensive to make, is because the walls are not only thick, but they... Like, for instance, mine is not anywhere close to this, but the way mine's built is it's got the outside wall and then the inside framing, and then it's got a whole separate set of framing that's not touching the outside wall.
Oh, okay.
And that's inside. And then that is all, then if there's one layer of 5/8 drywall, and that's all acoustic caulked. And then there's another layer of 5/8 drywall, and that's all acoustic caulked. And then there's a layer of wood on top of that. And that's not even like the craziest. That's pretty like, that's pretty normal. You know, these are probably it's like 5 to 6 times that. Like I've seen how some of that stuff's constructed. It's wild.
I think if I remember right, with Studio A, I think the highway is literally right outside the window. And I mean, because I think I remember, you know, watching the cars go by, and it was like, oh yeah, you know, you couldn't hear anything.
Couldn't
it was
hear
just
at
like,
all.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. The guy that took us in, he's like, okay, just stop, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
wow. Yeah. 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 And then when you have windows involved, that's even worse.
Right.
And there were windows, and because we were watching the cars.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the listeners can, but you guys can. You can see how these ones are constructed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like that's
really deep.
double layers of glass, you know, and spaced apart. Those probably aren't really touching in any way in there, and that's really thick glass. It's like, yeah, that's why studios are so expensive. It's wild. But we could probably nerd out all day, but I'm looking at the clock here, and you guys got to go get to Gibson here shortly. So I think we'll.
Oh, Peter's excited for Gibson.
Before we do that, though, there's a couple classic questions I like to get in when it's somebody's first time on. I mean, even though this is a slightly shorter episode, but before you go, there's 2 questions, and the first one is, what is your favorite Boss pedal?
Ooh, let's see. I always think of the delay.
The DD3?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't go wrong. DD3 is fantastic. That's a good choice. I like that. This is not sponsored by Boss, but I've been trying to get them to, you know. I only ask it on every episode. Maybe one of these days. Well, they're probably like, why? You already get it for free.
Yeah.
The final question, and this is going to both of you, especially since you're from the Chicago area. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh,
okay. So every time Peter has a surgery in Chicago, where do we go afterwards?
Well, yeah, we go to
an appointment.
There's a place in downtown Chicago called Gino's East.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Gino's East.
Yeah. Would that be your favorite?
Let's see. I don't know. That's your
favorite Chicago, and then there's one in Libertyville. So we
we
live in Libertyville, and Pizzeria DeVille. We'll give Pizzeria DeVille a shout out.
All right.
That's more the thin New York style.
Oh, yeah. That's a little more my vibe.
So it's not your typical Chicago,
not
what you would think of.
No, I'm not a stereotypical guy, so, you know.
Oh, there you go.
There's a guy that's from Chicago that lives in Portland now. His name's Jerry. And he started in the pandemic making pizzas in his house. And they're the thin, really thin. And he calls them the tavern style. They're kind of square. Okay. They're cut into squares, and, you know, some of the best pizza I've ever had. Yeah. He's kind of done it weird. Like, he started in his house, then he got a restaurant in a bar, and then he was pretty successful with that because he was just kind of leasing it from this bar, and then he's now shut that down, and he's looking for his own place. So Jerry, if you're listening, I need your pizza, man. Please.
Oh, that's great.
Well, thank you both. This was a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again sometime, maybe. And this was great chatting with you. Great to meet you. This was really a lot of fun.
It's cool to be here at Sweetwater and meeting all these cool, I don't know, creators or influencers. I don't know. I don't think of Pete's Diary as an influencer, but whatever.
No,
social media people.
It's a weird term, but I think it's a kind of unavoidable. I understand.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because, I mean, there's people that I've watched for years that are here, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
Right.
That you've learned a lot from.
That I have
really
learned
cool.
a lot from. Yeah, so it's just kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to talk to one of them here in an hour, getting Ben Etler in here. So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you both so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yep. For Dede and Pete, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. There you go. There you have it. And there you are. And if you're a patron of the show, you already heard that. You already had access to that because you support the show and you are awesome. So right now, I'm still rolling out GearFest content. I got as much as I possibly could while I was there. And this was one of those things. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I certainly hope to get Pete back on at some point and let's like dive into the, the rock and roll nerdiness. But he was such a treat to talk to, and Dede was amazing. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please go check out their pages. Please go check out their Instagram, all of that stuff. I mean, the dude played guitar with Jared James Nichols. Like, what else do I have to say? What else do I have to say? Seriously. Go check him out. And thank you so much for listening to this point. I really, really appreciate you. If you need more Tone Mobbery, we've got the Discord, we've got the Facebook group, we've got the Instagram. I'm doing more on YouTube these days. I'm putting everything out that I can. And yeah, seriously, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you. I really, really, really do. All right, gonna sign off for now, and I will talk to you on the internet very soon. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously, seriously, seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.